Dr. Mteto, the executive management team led by Mr. Marokane and of course Mr. Beki Ngumalo, who's on the generation side, together with many men and women who are committed to the resolution of this problem, who are located at the various power stations. I think it's important that there has to be some degree of appreciation that these concerted efforts are beginning to bear fruits, and that's why we can say today, as I stand before you, that we are experiencing a situation where we have had 40 days of consecutive no load shedding. Of course, we want to get to a stage where it is 3 months, 6 months, is a year, but the point I always make all the time is that it's one day after the other. We'll accumulate the days, we'll accumulate the months, we'll accumulate the quarters, we'll get to a year, and suddenly over time we'll get into conditions of energy security. What has delivered this in numbers terms? So remember that our biggest enemy, where we are from an ESCOM point of view, remember that the Energy Action Plan has got 5 outcomes, but just on the ESCOM one, which is outcome number 1, of ensuring that we fix ESCOM. Really our biggest enemy is to ensure that we address the issue of the units failing, what in technical speak they refer to as unplanned capacity loss factor. So this, like I said before, it talks to the reliability of the units just failing on their own, and or, if you like, the efficiency of the units not giving us the megawatts that we want. Although they are not failing, they are not going off the grid, but they are not performing at the levels that we want. So what is the story here? Is that if you look at the period of May 2023, so I'm comparing the same period last year and the same period today, so that you can have the benefit of 12 months of the movement of the trend line. Remember, I emphasize all the time, is the trend line. Are we moving in the right direction? Is this a momentary success, or this communicates to the possibility of a success being sustained over a period of time, and accepting that there will be instances of momentary setbacks? When we experience those setbacks, it should not be lost on us, the fact that we are moving in the right direction. So what is the experience? Is that the same period in May, our unplanned capacity loss factor, the amount of megawatts that we lost, they moved from 16,800 megawatts to about 18,000 megawatts. So in May last year, this time, we're sitting at the losses of 18,196 megawatts. So what is the situation now as I stand before you? And I'll show you the trend line of a week-by-week basis. We have been by Sunday, and the 5th of May, this number was sitting at 11,036 megawatts. So essentially, we've been able to recover as a result of this concerted effort. And that's what accounts for what I call the structural shift. It's as a result of that. And the point I'm making is that this recovery and the throwing back of the 7,000 megawatts, it's something that has been experienced over a period of time, in this instance over a 24-month period. And in fact, all indications suggest that we will continue to improve on this number. But I'm stating you what essentially are the facts that we have recorded, without necessarily making assumptions and projections going into the future. But the point that I'm making is that there is no correlation between this performance and the date of the 29th of May. When the team were making these efforts, when we ramped up planned maintenance in December and January, little did we know that there will be a big date with the ballot box by all freedom-loving South Africans on the 29th of May. So this is not staged. This is not managed. This is an orchestrated effort and an engineering feat by the team at ESCOM. And what we know is that the UCF is tracking at about 29% as at April of 2024, as opposed to 34% of April 2023. So we have recovered in percentage terms 5 percentage points over a period of the same period in April and the comparable period this year in April. So again, you don't earn and recover that 5 percentage points suddenly because a date of an election has been announced. It's as a result of a process mapping in engineering terms, the stabilization of management, ensuring that we use and deploy this fiscal injection received from National Treasury, identifying candidate stations that can give us the best returns in the shortest possible space of time, what we call the Pareto principle, and all of these things is yielding the results that are pointing us in the right direction, and the fact that the ending of load shedding is within touching distance. We are not yet there. I will not make the false claim that we are there, but we are getting there even much quicker than we had anticipated. So I think it's important that to indicate that from the 26th of April 2024 to date, unplanned outages have reduced by about 4,400 megawatts from the 15,500 megawatts that we had experienced some time ago. So again, a confirmation that indeed we are moving in the right direction. So when you address this unplanned capacity loss factor and you return the units, all of these things then contributes to what we call the energy availability factor. The amount of megawatts that are available to the grid relative to what is installed. And we express that in percentage terms. We call it the energy availability factor. What is the experience? The EAF has been above 60% since the 29th of April. And it reached proportions of about 65.5%, and I think the other Saturday were even close to 66%. This is a resounding success. Resounding in many ways. The first one is that we know that we can achieve it with this fleet of generating units at Eskom. So previously we are advised that it's not possible with the rapid aging of this unit for you to be even making a claim that you can achieve the EAF of 65%. And in fact, the team has done this. This is not magic. The team has always known that it's possible for us to be able to achieve this. And that's quietly, engineering stealth, they've been able to deliver this. And what is the point? The point is that we know it can be achieved. And what we want to show the country is that we can even exceed these numbers. Of course, you know that the board has set a target of about 70% by 2025. And the team will work very hard to get to that number and even surpass it. And of course, like I said, additional measures are being introduced to ensure that we are able to address this. And then it also does show in some of these stations, because what I give you is an aggregate picture, is a net picture of the performance of these stations put together, and then you get to this percentage of the total performance of the fleet. But there are 7 stations that are showing us that consistently they are above 60% of EAF. And in fact, they've been 60%, above 60% of EAF year to date. Remember that the total performance is the sum total of the individual contributions of the various power stations. And that's why it's important that we granularize, if you like, this assessment. The intensive interrogation of the performance of the fleet is a function of the degree of the performance, not just of a particular station, but of a specific generation unit at that particular station. That's the level of granularity that the team is attaching to this exercise. So the peaking, they are performing. And the peaking, they are important because at the time when we need them, they must be available. So you can say, but it's a counterproductive measure. But remember, peaking constitutes part of the total fleet of Eskom. When I say peaking, I'm talking about Horiko and Ankerlet, those power stations that gets to be called upon when the system is experiencing significant strain. Generation is significantly lower than demand. We want to close the gap, so that we are able to either eliminate load shedding and or we are able to reduce the intensity of load shedding. And of course, that's where you ban diesel. I'll come to the diesel numbers so that there's a better appreciation that what carries us is not the diesel, it's not the picking plants. What carries us is really the backbone of Eskom, is these power stations. Kusile, for an example, was one of the 6 power stations that we have identified for intervention. Of course, as a result of Unit 1, 2, 3 having failed as a result of the challenges with regards to emissions, the flue gas desulfurization unit, I'm happy to say that Kusile has graduated from that cluster of 6 power stations that required interventions as a result of the concerted effort of these men and women. Didn't require any assistance from outside with regards to retaining this unit. Is the qualified and competent engineers that are sitting at Eskom. And the point I want to convey to the country, there is no better qualified engineers to deal with these units than those that are found in Eskom. And that's why I want to address the people issues. Once there's a degree of stability, the leadership that is provided by the board, thanks to the collective of the board led by Dr. Mteto, the leadership of Mr. Marokane, and before that Caleb and Mr. Ngumalo, you see that there's this stability and the team is exerting itself. And these engineers, these gems that we have in Eskom, are able to deliver these numbers. I want to emphasize to the country that is these men and women at Eskom. There will always be bad apples, those will be dealt with. Significant minority that are undermining, if you like, this national icon that is Eskom. But the aggregate, the critical mass of the people of Eskom are committed to the resolution of this problem. So we have seen that Kusile, Matimba, Majuba, Letabo, Mata, and Midupi are indeed carrying us. And indeed, we are working on others. Kendala, I was told just the other day, was able to run about 6 units. For the first time in a long time, about 1 or 2 of those units had been out on long planned maintenance. They are returning, they are giving us the megawatts that we want as a result of an orchestrated strategy that was conceived on the back of the Energy Action Plan and the introduction of this new board, articulating what is the recovery path, and all of those things are coming together to deliver the kind of results that the country is experiencing. What is the performance of the EAF year to date? We are sitting at about 58.99%, if you like 59%. We are just shy of 60%. We are not where we want to be. Remember, we had wanted to be here in the last financial year. But we are there, we are close. We are able to see that the trend line is such that we are going to surpass this performance. It's going in the right direction, and we really want to congratulate the team. I want to say to the country that there has not been any Eskom open cycle gas turbine that have been used as of the 1st of May 2024. So we're not supported by diesel. These machines are running on their own. And I'll see you, it will reveal itself in the numbers. In both the rand value that has been spent and also the megawatts that have been generated out of this. I'm making this point so that I'm able to dispel the myth, the insinuation that Eskom is buying itself out of the load shedding situation as a result of political pressure exerted on them by an incumbent government that wants to perform better come the 29th of May. I've made the following point. One, it will be disrespectful for me to pick up a call and say to Dr. Mteto, please keep the lights on for the interest of the incumbent party. He will not do it, by the way. And I will not even pick up the phone. Because we have agreed on this orchestrated plan. We are going to sit on this plan. We accepted that the plan had hit inherent risks. Remember, I stood before the country some few months ago when we were at stage 6. I said to the country, we know what we are doing. Please be patient with us. And I really want to say thank you to the many South Africans who have been patient. I know that you are aggrieved as a result of load shedding. There's nothing to be celebrated with 40 days. We don't need load shedding at all. The point I'm making reference to the 40 days is to show that we are going the right direction. I stood here, I said we are stage 6, short-term pain, long-term gain. We know what we are doing. Please bear with us. We know what we are going through. We are beginning to see those results. Mr. Marokane and Becky and the team and the people at Eskom will not do anything that in engineering terms that is going to harm the life of these units or put at risk the lives of men and women who are working at these power stations because there's some date of the 29th of May. It will not happen. And that's why I've been consistent in saying that we are going to do things by the book. We'll not be expedient. We'll keep to the parameters, engineering parameters, but we'll do everything possible to ensure that we accelerate the work that we're doing. And guess what? All of these things is coming together. So I think it's important that we spend a bit of time just to explain that there is no relationship. Of course, there's also we do a juxtaposition of essentially what has been the daily performance of EAF. So the point I'm making here, you can see that the EAF on a consistent basis, when you compare the days in April, the days in May, were higher than where we were the last time. And remember the last time, what also carried that EAF in April of 2023 is that we're still burning the diesel and still experiencing load shedding. What is the situation now? I told you that there's periods starting 1st of May, we have not been burning the diesel. Considerable part of April, we've been burning significantly lower amount of diesel, and still we don't have load shedding. So it's important. The last time we were burning this diesel, but we had load shedding. This time, significant periods we are not burning diesel, you don't have load shedding. The only answer can be found in the fact that these machines are performing better, and these machines are not performing better out of some unknown, mysterious act. It's as a result of the work of the men and women at Eskom. And for that, you don't congratulate a fish for swimming, but it's important that when you have turned the corner, you appreciate that you have turned the corner, and you urge them to continue to do more, to deliver on the expectations of the country. It's not elevated levels of expectation to say that the lights must be on 24/7, 365 days a year. It's a normal delivery. That's what is expected. But coming from where we're at, we are showing that we're moving in the right direction. Again, what we attempt to do is to also isolate these power stations. Like I've told you about these power stations that are carrying us out of this situation. There are others that are still lagging behind, like Tutuka. And I'm confident you'll see in the next 3 to 4 months that Tutuka will come to the party. The investments that we're making there, and I'm not talking monetary investments only. I'm talking about people investments. I'm talking about stability. I'm talking about certainty going into the future. They are going to bear fruit. And once these workhorses of Eskom come back like Tutuka, the situation improves and improves for the better. And we are going to get to a situation where we can say with degree of confidence that load shedding is behind us. We are not yet there. We are waiting for these machines to come. But we are tracking also the unplanned capacity loss factor. So you can see the Kusile one. When you use the timeline from October of 2022, that's an important timeline because that's when this board took over and agreed on this plan. And that's why it's important. They agreed on this plan 2 years ago, or if you like 18 months ago, not knowing that there will be a date of the 29th of May. And they executed in terms of this plan. And the president went further and said, I'll help you to execute by appointing a minister in the presidency responsible for electricity to work with you to deliver on this mandate. As we referred to a project manager, we welcome that. It is the project manager that is helping to deliver this. That's why I said we are celebrating. What bothers us is not the titles, it's not how you are perceived, it's not what the people say, those who are naysayers who don't believe. It's our ability to execute against the plan and explain ourselves to the majority of the country, the work that we are doing. Kusile, that unplanned capacity loss factor, the rate at which these units were failing at Kusile, they were unreliable, they were not efficient. we have seen an improvement of 51%. Majuba, 42%. Matla, 25%. Significant. And I can go on and on with the other stations. And I have accepted there are those stations that have not met the target, but we are doing everything possible to ensure that they are able to carry and we are able to address this situation going into the future. The numbers are important. So what we know for April of 2023 is that we banned diesel. Just April of 2023, we banned 2.3 billion rands of diesel. And out of that, we extracted 344 gigawatts hour of energy. So this year, 2024, April, is 583 million. So 2.3 billion last year, just the month of April. This year is 583. And that's why it's important that we are able to dispel this thing, that indeed we are using diesel to sustain ourselves. And what is it that we got from the IPP? Remember, it's Forica and Ankerlet. Then we've got the diesel and Avon. Last year it was 805 million rands for the month of April. 126 gigawatt hour of electricity. This year it's 568. In total, for the month of April, just on the peaking, the morning and evening, 1.1 billion. Last year, 3.1 billion. A third of what we spent last year. And I said that with this performance we are seeing in May, from the 1st of May to today, we are not burning that diesel. You are going to find that when I come back and we show you the comparable period of May, the trend line is going down. So I think it's important that we have that appreciation. I know that in the public domain, there were some political actors, they either chose to misread or did not understand that when we say financially, we really were talking about just the month of April. But I don't think that they misread. I think they genuinely didn't understand. And that's why we use this platform, just to clarify so that people can consume it better. I genuinely think that in my language, you don't have to be in a classroom to be educated. We'll use this platform. So we are resolving this question. That's the point I'm making, to ensure that we address this. So it is found in the numbers. And I said I really invite these actors, if you want to understand this much, much deeper, because this is a media state update, we don't have an opportunity to go deeper and receive a lot of these questions. ESCOM will avail itself outside the minister, just to clarify to you, what do you mean by this, what do you mean by that? I think the biggest danger in life is not knowing that you don't know. And the sooner you know that you don't know, the more you go out and ask to be assisted. So what's the point, the message I'm conveying, a third of what was spent in April last year, and still we had load shedding. A third of that is spent this year and we don't have load shedding. And I want to suggest to you that the period of May will even be significantly better. And then as I conclude, we are tracing the 2 weeks, so the capacity available. You can see by the last week of April, that is sitting at about 29,000 megawatts. Now look at the period, the 29th of May to the 29th of April, I'm sorry, to the 9th of, to the 3rd of May. That average is sitting at 30,000 megawatts. And this is against a baseline of 27,000 megawatts of the comparable period in May of 2023. So there's an additional 3,000 megawatts. But don't read that on its own. Read it together with the planned outages. The planned outages, in May the baseline was at 3,000, now it's at 5,500. So we've taken more out, but we still have more in. So the net is about 5,000 if you use those two indicators. It gets more exciting. If you look at the unplanned capacity loss factor, what we had been losing, the May period about 17,000, 18,000 megawatts. Now it was averaging the last weeks of April 14,000, and now we're at 12,000 megawatts. This is the kind of improvement that I'm referring to. And the kind of that improvement, we see it also in the management. The fact that the outage slips are beginning to come down. The outage slips means you make a commitment that I'll return this unit by this date. When you fail to meet that target that you have set for yourself, you meet it later, you deliver it later than that target, you say you are out, it's an outage slip. It's a function of management. It's a function of planning. And thanks to the stability that the board had introduced, we are seeing the kind of changes that we are seeing. And I think it's important also, this point that I refer to as a structural change. So you can see that going into May, I'm sure we'll see it better and better going deeper into May. You'll see that the demand, the PM peak demand, was about 31,000 megawatts, was still at 27,000. And of course, this number is likely going to go up as we go deeper into May. But you are likely going to see that it's going to be lower than the 31,135 megawatts of peak PM demand. Why is that so? That is so because industry and households have begun to roll out rooftop solar solutions on the back of these incentives, but also just a general appreciation by households that you need something more reliable. You need to be less reliant on the grid. You have to make interventions behind the meter. And of course, we are expecting clearer skies during winter. So we expect that a lot of this demand, especially during the day, 11 to about 4 during the day, for households that have rolled out in industry, they'll be drawing out that from solar. And that's a better problem to have. I'm saying a better problem to have because when your demand plummets, it's a function of it deals a blow to your revenue earning capacity. The second one is that you'll be producing considerably more than what you are consuming. It's a better problem to have. We'd rather sit with that problem than the current problem. And that's why we'll move into that area, and that one can be resolved by technology intervention. So I thought that it's important that we spend a bit of time just to say that what we are seeing now is not an accident. It's orchestrated, it is planned over a period starting October 2022 by the board, on the back of the Energy Action Plan. So when Mr. President Ramaphosa introduced this plan, which was co-created, co-sponsored by private sector, by industry, business and community, it's beginning to yield the fruits. And when they put it together, they didn't know of this date that the people have with the ballot on the 29th. So it's important that we are appreciative of that. And I'm making the point, we're not out of the woods yet. We need to accelerate new generation capacity. We need to aggressively roll out that solar PV. We need to focus on that baseload. And that's why just the other day, on Friday, together with the leadership of ESCOM, members of the board, the management led by the CEO himself, Mr. Marokani, we descended to KZN. We're at Richards Bay, accelerating that gas to power project, the 3,000 megawatt that can be derived out of Richards Bay. It's important for energy sovereignty. So we're not just reliant on what the installed fleet, we need new generation capacity. And that's why ourselves, working with the Richards Bay IDZ, working with the provincial government, working with the municipality of Mhlatuze, ESCOM and Transnet were part of those conversations. We have pulled all of these actors together under the stewardship of ESCOM, a single technical team, to ensure that we advance the delivery of this 3,000 megawatt so that we get closer to conditions of energy security. Thanks.